Welcome in to Greenville Grit, Greenville residents in touch on 103.7 WTIB. This is the local show that keeps you connected and in touch with the issues that affect what's happening in your community. Greenville Grit is sponsored by Ribeyes, Kid Construction, and Greenville Toyota. Now, here are your hosts for Greenville Grit, Terry Williams and Michael Overton.
Good evening and welcome to Greenville Grit. I'm Terry Williams.
I'm Michael Overton, and we have alongside me
Dennis Mitchell.
All right, we got a great group today, and we have a lot of discussions.
Lots
Here we are,
to talk about.
the day after the elections.
Yeah.
How cool was that? Some of the things that went on. At least
I'm happy.
we're happy, but there's probably 30 to 40% of the people that aren't.
Not too happy. That's
So
right.
we're going to always thank the sponsors before we get into the show. If it weren't for them, we wouldn't be here. So
That's
we got to
right.
thank Greenville Toyota. If you're looking for a new Toyota or Scion vehicle or a new used car, go see Craig Ghost and the Greenville Toyota team at 321-3000 across from Fresh Market in Greenville or at greenvilletoyota.com. We also have Bill Kidd with Kidd Construction Group.
The Green Builder.
That's right. KCGBuildGreen.com. You can also find him on Facebook. KCGBuildGreen.com or Kidd Construction Group. Always have to thank Ribeyes Steakhouse.
That's right.
Terry and I's favorite.
Love
Dennis, have you
that
been there?
place.
Oh, yeah. Me and my wife went there the other
Really
night.
good.
Very good stuff.
Great.
Good stuff. If you mention Greenville Grit, you get a prize. I'm not sure if it's the same thing this week, but
you do
make
get
sure
a
you mention Greenville
benefit.
Grit and support them as a sponsor. They do have a location at the corner of Fire Tower in Arlington, as well as the location in Williamston.
That's right.
And lastly, the Overton Group, real estate professional serving all of Eastern North Carolina, business brokerage, property management, commercial real estate leasing and sales, and residential brokerage, full service real estate firm. So we're going to take our quick 2-minute commercial break, come back, and we're going to talk a little bit of election, a little bit of city council, a little bit of city politics, and whatever else
That's
crosses
right.
our mind.
We're
Be
ready
back
to
in
go.
2 minutes.
Announce.
Well, welcome back to the Greenville Grit and a post-happy Halloween to everyone listening. And the reason I say that is we need to talk a little bit about Halloween and some of the things going on in the city. Love to hear both of your opinions on the riot. I'm not sure if it was a riot or a mass crowd or what exactly it was. Dennis, why don't you take the lead on this one? Tell me what happened.
It's a Project X style party. I don't know if anybody ever seen that movie. It's just, kids got together, like I said, social media invites, and it just grew into a very, very large party. Something the likes of Greenville haven't seen probably since the 70s or,
Right.
or something like that. And things got a little out of hand. But other than that, I think by all accounts, our police force handled it the way they're supposed to. We didn't have a Ferguson-style
That's right.
event. No one got hurt except for, I guess, the person that got hurt from the party. But other than that, there was no incidents. No one's complaining about how our police react other than a couple elected officials.
That's right.
We got one elected official try to use the opportunity to try to tie this into some large-scale crime downtown with bars when we don't even have those bars downtown anymore, and just try to make it a bigger policy issue. And another councilwoman, by all accounts, had no clue of what it takes to disperse a large crowd like that. Felt like our police was unprepared for it. So other than those two off the wall comments, I think our police force handled it the way they should
Well,
have.
let's talk some stats real quick about the district. And I know the one thing we always hear, especially being in real estate, Terry, is people are concerned about Greenville's crime rate.
Right.
And I believe they just did the 10 worst cities in North Carolina. We definitely were not on
didn't
that
hit it,
list.
that's right.
A lot of towns around us were on there.
Yes, they were.
But we were not on that list. And you also have to look at the university area, too.
That's right.
There's been, everyone said when they did the 4 unrelated rule that crime was going to go through the roof. Well, the fact is, in the last year, Dennis, what, year or 2 years, it's been a 52% decrease in crime since that was
area.
done. And, of course, it's been repealed, but
Right.
the grandfather clause did affect several homes. So significant reduction in crime, and this really didn't affect the entire neighborhood. This affected a very small area. Unfortunately, we managed some properties close to it. We had a tenant call my property manager saying, "What are you going to do about these people?" Well, not a whole lot we
3,000
can do,
people.
but
That's a lot of people in
you know,
one
I
small
think
area.
Mayor Thomas has pledged to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Right.
The chief is, and you know, I got an opinion though. There's been an effort to shut all the bars down, and look, I'm not a big fan of penny beer nights where every college student on campus shoves in the door, and you just have a lot of drunk people walking out. But we need to encourage, instead of creating these massive buffer zones between bars of 500 feet, we need to say, hey, if you're going to do a type of establishment like this, these are the guidelines we'd like to see. If someone's going to do a nicer upscale bar or bar and entertainment area, we need to encourage people to go to this uptown area that is going so well, because by continuing to shut these things down, in my opinion,
This is
all
what
we're
you're gonna
doing
have.
is spreading them out to other parts of the city.
When they don't have any other place to go, they're going to party outside
College
of the
students
uptown
are going
area.
to party.
And that's what's going to happen. And then you're going to find yourself with not just one party like they had at Riverwalk, but they'll be scattered throughout the city. It's going to be very hard to keep everybody safe, including the people at the party and the people who live around the party. It's just going to require more manpower. We just have to be really careful how we start closing down every bar and not having any place for the college students to go.
When unfortunately, it's kind of like the unintended consequences
Right.
too. You have a very vibrant, or what is starting to become a vibrant uptown district.
Right.
And me, as in real estate, I talked to someone who may have facilities in other cities that are very nice, that would appeal to people in their mid-late 20s, which is what we say we want to provide in Greenville
Right.
to keep them here. We can't open them because they don't fall within the buffer zones because they're too close to yet another one. And so, again, the unintended consequence
That's right.
goes that we're keeping people from opening up in our downtown area.
And another thing too, with the Councilmember Mercer's comments and Councilmember Blackburn's comments, you have to understand is when I was on City Council and the mayor continues to do this and Candy Smith continues to do this, every Halloween, me, Max, Candy, and Alan were downtown.
Right.
Monitoring the situation, trying to get a feel of what's going on. And occasionally we went downtown because we like to know what we're voting on.
Right.
Anytime and there was a terrible situation where you had a murder, no matter what time it was, me, Candy, Max, and
Right.
Alan came out there to find out what was going on. Calvin, Marion, none of the other council members even come out to these things.
Right.
So for them to try to give an opinion on what the police should do or try to tie it in policy, they don't know what's going on these actual situations.
Well, now you're talking about comments. Why don't you tell us about the comments that were made, just so the public
Yeah,
knows
like I
that they're
said,
not been abreast.
Councilman Mercer's email came out. He just tried to tie it in a larger policy issue, try to tie somehow this incident, isolated incident in Riverwalk, to the foreign related and the downtown bar issues and crime and all that stuff like that, when we just clearly said they're not related. And the Councilwoman Blackburn came out and pretty much criticized the preparation that the police department did in response to it, to break up the crowd, which I think you had about 50, what I told, about 50 police officers respond and 3,000 students, a lot of them out of town, throwing things at the police. There was
That's right.
There was somebody that was injured the police were trying to get to, they couldn't get to. So they said there was some type of chemical munitions used to disperse the crowd or whatever. But again, she wasn't out there.
Well,
And
and
you
I-
had Alan
yeah.
Thomas, the mayor, that was out there at the time.
Right. Well, I think you have to remember, too, now, the Halloween celebration in Uptown, it's taken some time for them to get to the point now where it is, for the last couple of years, as far as I can remember, it's been safe. The police have been on top of it. They have everything in place, and people have been safe, and they haven't had any incidents happen. So I think this particular party, even though I think it was known that the party was going to take place, no laws had been broken that didn't allow them not to have the party. So once they did have the problems, I think they got on that as quick as they could. Now, they couldn't completely leave downtown.
Yeah, I
They
know
couldn't
police
leave
officers that
downtown.
had to stay
They
downtown.
had to stay there to monitor, to keep all that situation under control, which they did. And it sounds like to me, I honestly believe Marion jumped the gun again. A typical reaction from this city council that we have seen from a few of our city council officials. I think she jumped the gun in her comments, not knowing the whole facts before. She just reacted rather than finding out the facts of how the chief and his department handled the situation. We're fortunate. Obviously, they did the right things because we had no more injuries than we did. They got everything under control. Nothing burned down. Nothing. I mean, there were some incidences, yes, but I think they handled it. I think they had it under control and handled it. And I think she overreacted
And what a
again
lot of
with her
people don't
comments.
understand is that when this the mess was going on in Ferguson, our police chief was called and consulted on it.
Exactly.
So, I mean, he has this national reputation on how to deal with incidents like this. And like I said, this could have been a lot
They
worse.
handled it as good as you can.
Yeah, it
handle
could have
The
been a
fact
lot
that really
worse,
no
yeah.
one else got hurt, other than people who were already hurt, or people who got hit by throwing bottles before the police got there. I mean, within 45 minutes,
That's right.
they were
Yeah,
dispersed.
I mean,
and-
handled it well.
So,
Real professional. on
but
the
you know
job.
what? I've managed a lot of people. I say through the years. I'm not quite, hopefully not quite that old, but I can tell you one thing that you don't do. You absolutely don't do, and I can say this in a room full of 20 or 30 people. You don't call someone out in front of other people.
Yeah,
So you do not call your police chief out in the public
thought it was
ever
disrespectful.
without sitting down with them face to face and having a private conversation.
That's right.
Then you can sit in the press conference and discuss it. So completely unprofessional.
I thought so too, which
All
is
right.
unfortunately typical.
Let's talk about, well, Terry and I, Dennis to a degree. Let's talk about the good stuff that happened.
Oh yeah, I'm a
I like
happy
that Dennis
voter
to a
today.
degree.
Dennis, you might agree on some.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I was happy about everything that happened.
And we're talking about elections.
We are.
Elections joining in
Elections
last
happened.
night.
I mean, like I said, I don't know Judge Teague. I'm pretty sure he's a great guy. Ferris was a friend of mine, so I mean that one stung a little bit. But other than that, I mean, all my picks pretty much won.
I'll tell you really what surprised
I think my
me.
picks won better than you guys.
Now,
picks.
we've been pretty adamant. I've been very open and out there that I was a big supporter of Tom Tillis, but very surprised he actually lost Pitt County. What's
Yeah,
your opinion
I
on
was
that?
too.
I'm surprised too. I mean, I thought I was going to be the deciding vote in that. I think there probably was a large African American turnout from Ferris Dixon race. He had a lot of support in the African American community. I
Yes,
think a
he
lot of
did.
people wanted to see the history of it made. To have that first judge of color in Pitt County.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that might have contributed to Tom Tillis' loss. Because other than that, I mean, Republicans had a very strong showing in our county.
I thought so too.
They did. I mean, we pretty much felt. Look, I stayed up till it said 99%, and they still had not called it. I was like,
I
good
stayed up till they
gracious
called
sakes.
it. I could not go
Well, I
to
couldn't
sleep.
either.
I think
I
they,
couldn't go
I
to
think it
sleep.
caught them off guard by the polling, and they were really waiting on Charlotte
Right.
to be the end of the
Well, they
end of
thought Charlotte was going to upset
Yeah.
it, and it didn't.
Well,
So-
Mecklenburg and Forsyth and maybe is it Columbus? They were like the last three to report the final
'cause
numbers.
When they're polling, when their exit polling is all from what's on TV, that's when they wait to call it to the very
Right.
end of it.
That's right.
Well, oh,
But I thought
happy
it was
days for
great.
me. I was very excited about that. Shot the speaker of congratulatory text, and we'll see what we can do over the next few weeks
Yeah,
to
we'd
get
like
him on
to have him on
to do it.
and I told
Yeah, I would like to talk to myself.
Yeah, I told I told Brian
may have
Brown
you
last
back on,
night and a
though.
few of the others that I'd like to have them on periodically through the next 12 months or so and hold them accountable for the things they've told us that they're going to work on and get accomplished. And I'd like for them to come back and report to the public. What are they doing and what are their ideas and how do they think certain things will get passed? And when they vote on bills that we can't understand didn't pass, for what reason? What's in that bill that caused them to vote against it or vote for it? That
Well, and I think
we
one of
might
the things
not know all of
that everyone here and needs to hold Speaker Tillis accountable
Yeah.
for is we feel like, at least I think all of us would agree, we feel like Dole didn't do a whole lot for us in
Right.
Eastern North Carolina. Hagan didn't do a whole lot for us in Eastern North Carolina. Tillis was supported by a lot of people here.
Yes.
A lot of money raised for him.
I agree.
So I hope that he remembers that and will support Eastern North
That's what
Carolina.
And I think he
what I
will.
was telling somebody. I was like, the governor comes here a lot, he supports this area a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I have that feeling that Tom Tillis is going to support
Tillis
this area.
came
so.
here what, 5
A
times
lot.
in the last 2 or
He
3
did.
weeks just
Absolutely right.
to hit it. So
I mean, but there was really nothing that close in the election. You had a couple upsets. Of course, my friend Charles Farley did win his county commissioner race to unseat Tom Johnson.
I was surprised of that. I was surprised that the numbers were as big as 54% to 46%.
I knew he was going to win, but like I said, I didn't think he was going to win that much.
I didn't know he was going to win, but I will tell you, he really has worked on the ground. I saw him in action. He stayed at the polls all day. I haven't seen Tom Johnson at all, but Mr. Farley stayed all day long, talked to people. Personally, I want to thank you for your vote. I mean, that meant a lot to people. They like to hear that. So I thought that was very good.
And then again, I mean, I know other changes. Other newcomer Mary Lawrence Williams, who beat Eugene James in the primary. She had an independent write-in, but she still won that one. A couple of close school board races. I mean, I think one school board race was close. That was the open seat after the new changes to the school board. You had two incumbents, really, Robert Moore and Mary Blunt Williams, running that race against challenger Minnie Anderson. I thought Minnie Anderson was going to pull that off, but she lost by about 70 votes, 67 votes.
She lost by 63 votes.
By 63 votes, but I mean that was a pretty close three-way
That's
race.
crazy. I mean, you're talking about 34-85 versus 34-22.
I know.
That is close.
Really close.
What about the judges' race? I really didn't know about.
You know
these.
what? That was hard. Judges are hard. You almost, and I don't like going down and doing a straight Republican ballot or straight Democrat ballot because I think people need to look at the individual person,
Right.
not the party. But unfortunately, I don't know anything about these judges.
Right.
So
That's
when
what
it
I'm
came to
saying.
that, I'm more conservative. I
Right.
literally said, well, I don't know what else to do. I had to pick the Republican ballot up
Right.
and get through their recommendations of who to vote for. Because outside of Lee Teague, I really don't know a lot of
I
the
was
guys.
kind of confused in who. I mean, I didn't know who was a Republican and a Democrat. Like on the Mark
Well, a lot of
Martin
them don't
race,
tell you.
was he a Republican or a Democrat?
Republican. He's Republican.
But a lot of Democrats were supportive of him.
Yes, they were. He's our current Chief Justice.
Yeah, so that was
and has done a great job, which I think spoke highly of him and why Democrats supported him.
And Hudson lost her judgeship on the Supreme Court. What? No, this only in Pitt County. I don't know what the national numbers are.
Yeah, these are just Pitt County
national
numbers.
numbers.
So
The Pitt County numbers. It was interesting to see that, and you know, like Dennis said, there's probably some surprises in there, but for the most part, I think a lot of people have predicted it. And nationally, it's going to be interesting over the next 2 years, really, to see in Washington D.C. how things happen, how things change up.
I'm having a very good debate with some of my my friends, African American friends in the same socioeconomic range as I am. And we're starting to have this debate, the allegiance to the Democratic Party versus, being more open. And I think what people want now is they want just people to do something. And that's the
Right.
big conversation
Dennis,
now.
well,
So
I
like the
think-
Republicans are in charge now, do something.
that's right.
I think that's a good lead in. I've something I don't quite understand, and I know that if you look at this, as you probably 30 or 40% of the people they're going to vote straight line politics regardless. They don't care who it is. My grandmother was that way. She was going to vote Democrat no matter who it was. But why is the African American community and the Hispanic community, for the most part, sold so? How are they possibly that sold on the Democratic Party?
I know the Hispanic community is mainly behind immigration reform. They really want immigration reform, and they believe that the only way we're going to get it is through the Democrats. And I think with African Americans, it's just a historic thing. But I think we're starting to really see that shift. I mean, where
But
people
look at
starting
the
to open their eyes.
values. That's what I don't understand.
That's what I don't get.
Yeah,
I mean,
and it's
when I look at
confusing.
that, it seems to be, again, tell me if I'm wrong, but the African American community and the Hispanic community are
very
generally
conservative.
very conservative, very faith-based community, and have very strong morals and convictions.
And
So how can they possibly go with a party that some people, and again, not all, my grandmother's a lifelong Democrat, but that are so extreme to the other end, I don't understand.
But I think they're conservative, but they vote on the social issues. But I'm the opposite.
Right.
My social issues are very liberal, but my fiscal issues and everything are very conservative.
Right.
So I mean, it's just what people hold important to them. I think those social issues are the ones they vote on the most. I mean, and I don't understand it, but I think it's changing because once you get explained the thing behind it, once you it's not just they cut unemployment, they cut Medicare, Medicaid. But like for me, when I told Tom Tillis that I had issues with some of the things, and he asked me, and I told him his issues, and he got an explanation.
Right.
Well, we want to expand Medicaid, but I mean, it's $300 million under budget. We had to fix that first. Now we fix it. Now we're going to
Right.
expand it. Unemployment insurance, we were in the hole with the federal government, millions of dollars.
$2.5 billion.
$2.5 billion.
Billions of dollars.
Billion.
So we wanted to pay that back, and then look at it. So it wasn't. It's like Tom Tillis really wanted to fix the issues, and I think
Right.
that's what we're talking about. And I think Henry kind of touched on it this morning. That larger conversation of really reaching out to the African American
Exactly.
population, and the Republicans really reaching their hand out and explaining to them, this is what we're going to do. And you're starting to see that. Look, they elected the first senator in the South since Reconstruction, black man, Tim Scott. That's his name, out of South Carolina. Another black candidate from Utah.
I thought
Mia
it was
Love.
Utah. Someone
Yeah.
told me it wasn't.
Mia Love.
Here
from-
she is very sharp.
Mia
Yes,
Love,
absolutely.
so I mean, I think you're starting to see the Republican Party really starting to
Right.
reach out.
Look,
And
my favorite candidate from the last presidential election was
I was Herman Cain.
Oh,
Herman
I
Cain.
loved
I was
Herman
Herman
Cain.
Cain.
I did too.
I was like, "Come on, Herman, you can do it."
I mean, a lot of
But Herman
talking
had
about-
some
He's
personal
got his
issues.
own.
he
He's
needed
got
to,
his own station now on
Yeah.
Sirius XM or something.
Yeah,
You can
Kane
hear him all the
TV.
time. Yeah.
And then I mean, people talking about Ben Carson a lot, and then you
Yes.
have
Yeah, but then don't people like, let's say, Herman Cain or Tim Scott, aren't they criticized greatly by other African Americans for being a Republican?
they're criticized, but I think they're still open to other people's eyes. I mean, because the first it's easy to come out there and say, Uncle Tom, you're just following their agenda and all the other stuff. But then you have people who really open their eyes, because
Right.
there's some of us who really like to see successful people succeed, and I think that's what we're seeing in Ben Carson and Herman Cain and things like that. for Republicans to really run the map in 2016, all they need is 10%. You know,
Well, the race card and what do they call it? Identity politics was just unbelievable. Some of the ads that I heard about going across the
now
country.
they got an opportunity now to show that their policies really work. You know, to me, it comes along. You know,
only if the president will go along with it to a degree. He's got to agree to some things.
This is how they can show really African Americans how their policy work. Because the Democrats, I believe, you know, more of a handout, you know, and the Republicans, if you really look at their agenda, is more of we're going to put things in place so you can help yourselves and become financially independent. Exactly. But they got to really go out there and push their policies and show people that they really work. Because I think over time you're going to see their.
But that's the problem. When you take the handouts, we become puppets of the state. Every one of us. Doesn't matter your color. When you take handouts and you become dependent that you've got to have those checks or you've got to have this, you become a puppet to the state.
Well, and they're so dependent now that we've almost got to come up with new programs to help, work programs, call them whatever you want, and give, set something in place to give them an opportunity to get off of those entitlements.
Well, I mean,
we're going to have to help, but they can't do it by themselves if they're
used to entitlements.
So used. Yes, that's true. But well, I think the election, obviously, overall in the whole country, was a real sign that people want something different. They're not happy with the way things have gone, not happy with the slow comeback of the economy. And I am certainly hoping that what's happened last night in this election will help our economy. Will give people confidence again that, hey, it's gonna be okay. We got a second chance now.
Somebody I heard it a couple of weeks ago that they made a comment that the Democrats, the ones that got pot approved in Colorado, the Republicans were going to take over and show them how to make money selling it. You know, I had people tell me, and I had an African American friend tell me, when who ran the last election? Mitt Romney. You know, he's a rich white man. I said, yeah, who's done pretty good for himself, who knows how to make money, who understands that. And it's this can go all the way back to our city politics. This is the Greenville Grit. That's what we're supposed to be talking about.
That's right.
You've got to have people in there who understand budgeting, who understand management, who understand leadership.
The whole concept of running a business.
Pulling someone, I love East Carolina. It's my alma mater. But pulling someone out of a classroom in East Carolina with zero experience, putting them in a leadership position with absolutely no experience is nothing but it's not fair to them. No. You're putting them in a position of guaranteed failure.
That's right.
But we got to take a second commercial break.
Okay.
So we're going to take the next 2 minutes, come back. We'll have 3 or 4 minutes left to wrap the show up.
Are you?
Well, welcome back to the Greenville Grit. We're about to wrap it up. I mean, we're talking about national politics and the ramifications, but, you know, how does those transcend down to city issues? You know, now we got going up in 2015, our municipal election. You know, we're coming off of a do nothing council.
This is going to be here before you know it.
Yeah, so I mean, so how does this translate?
They've got the end of July 26th, I think, the last time. So end of July, we're talking about 8 months. 8 months, and we're into city politics.
Well, I think we've seen a change and a shakeup in our national politics. I want to bring that same change and shakeup to our local politics.
Well, I think the people tried, you know, the whatever they were, the civil, trustworthy, honest council, and they got 3 tax cuts in the first 6 months of city council, and nothing
3
else.
Tax cuts.
3 tax increases.
Well, you were in the wrong city.
3 tax increases in the first 6 months and nothing else. So, you know,
that's right.
How does that translate? You know, is this a signal that people want focus on more jobs, more economic development? You know, want to get things done?
Definitely.
People want jobs, and that's the thing is government seems to think that they can create jobs. I believe government's role is that there is a support mechanism. Our job in government should be to get out of the way of the people, give them the environment that they need to be able to create the jobs.
That's right.
Whether that is getting rid of regulations, easing tax and burdens, and just encouraging entrepreneurship. I mean, that's what our country was built on, was the entrepreneur.
We've got to do all those things.
And the more regulations you put in place, the more restrictions, and this can go all the way back to last year and the big discussion about umbrellas on the sidewalks.
Right.
You had to get a permit to have an umbrella on the sidewalk.
Make things
we don't
difficult.
Need to make it harder for people to do things.
That's right.
We don't need to tax them anymore. You're going to earn your taxes on them putting people in jobs.
Well, they call them permit fees, but they're taxes.
They're taxes.
Oh,
they're always taxes. So, I mean, that's one of the frustrating things for me. And I think for any city council we have in the future is I want to see clear-cut leadership. I want to see vision. I want to see what are we doing not now, but 5, 10, 15 years down the road, what are we setting up to bring things into this county, into the city that are going to provide jobs? What kind of infrastructure are we going to spend the money on? And no, it is not going to be popular. Some people are going to say, why are you building roads in this dirt field and spending millions of tax dollars?
Which brings me to an issue that I told somebody I was going to say this, but the city manager needs to spend that $200,000 on the design of Greenville, on the South Greenville. It's bothering me. I don't know why she didn't spend that money.
Right.
It's been over 2 years. City manager Greenville, Dennis Mitchell, is calling you out. Spend that $200,000 on South Greenville design. It was paid for by my city council
To go ahead and design the
project's been
building.
held up.
Yeah.
South Greenville, the recreation center?
Recreation center.
Okay.
Also, real quick, because I know we got to wrap it up in a minute, but I want to find out for our next go around here at Greenville Grit how some of the bonds across the state got passed. There were a lot of bonds on the
I
ballot.
was kind of actually surprised ours did not get passed.
And there was some. I want to find out what went on in Raleigh. You know, we got our bond last discussion coming up next week. Hopefully, we'll have all that put together, and we can come back with a report too on that.
Well, thank you so much to everyone for joining in. We have to
absolutely.
thank once again Greenville Toyota, the Overton Group, Kidd Construction Group, and Ribeye Steakhouse. Mention Greenville Grit, get a discount. You can also tune in 6:30 Friday night, 9:30 Saturday morning on Cable 7, or catch us up on YouTube. Just type in Greenville Grit. Thank you, Dennis and Terry. We will see y'all next week.